Jackson pushed open the tall glass doors of Turner Motors with a quiet defiance in every uneven step. The polished floor echoed the soft rhythm of his cane, measured, deliberate, a sound too subtle for anyone to notice. He didn't get far. Just 2 steps inside when a receptionist, no older than his niece, stepped forward. Her smile was textbook, polite, controlled, practiced, not warm. "I'm sorry, sir. You'll need an appointment to view the Valkyrie RS. She didn't ask his name, didn't recognize his face. She didn't even glance at the scar that peeked from beneath his tailored cuff. The kind of scar that doesn't heal, only hardens." He didn't respond. Instead, he looked past her, beyond the showroom's cold elegance. There it was, the Valkyrie RS. Sleek under the ceiling's soft white lights, a machine born of sweat, obsession, and the kind of pain no engineer ever writes in their notebooks. Behind him, laughter drifted through the open doors. A couple stepped inside, effortlessly stylish, the air around them rich with champagne expectations. An employee, full of rehearsed charm, welcomed them like royalty. "Mr. and Mrs. Colton, welcome back." The receptionist's posture straightened. Smiles bloomed. Champagne was offered before coats were even removed. No one noticed Jackson anymore. Not even a nod. Not even a brochure. Just silence and disregard. He exhaled slowly, nodded, and turned. His cane tapped out a lonely rhythm as he stepped back into the California sun. The camera lingered, not on his face, but on the glass behind him, the way the Turner Motors logo hovered ghost-like over his shoulder. No one in that building knew. Not the girl at the desk, not the man pouring drinks, but the man they dismissed was the man who built it all. The memory surged without warning. A different door, a different life. Jackson, 23rd. Grease-stained hands, a dream louder than the silence of the one-car garage he worked in. He crouched over a half-built chassis, bones aching from too many sleepless nights. Sweat slipped down his neck as he turned the ignition. Hope sparked. Then fire. A roar. A scream. Metal buckling like the cry of something dying. Then silence. A support beam cracked. The car collapsed, and in less than a breath, his leg was pinned, mangled beneath twisted steel and molten ambition. He didn't cry. Not then. Instead, he felt the cold of the concrete against his back, the sharp sting of gasoline in the air, and the panic he buried deep with 6 words whispered into the void. "Don't pass out. Don't die here." Later, in the sterile quiet of the hospital, the doctors confirmed what he already knew. The leg was gone, but they didn't know what else had been born in that garage. Not just pain, not just loss, but resolve, poured hot and hard into his soul like molten metal. He didn't just survive, he rebuilt. While others struggled to walk, Jackson was designing. Sketches littered his hospital room, engines, chassis, suspension systems scribbled between meals. It wasn't therapy, it was sacred. A war plan drafted on paper trays and in between blood draws. Each diagram wasn't just a car. It was an answer to every voice that told him no. And when he finally walked out, cane in hand, it wasn't the prosthetic that mattered. It was the blueprint in his backpack. Turner Motors didn't begin in a boardroom. It was born in a rented garage, forged by hands that had forgotten rest. The first model was Frankenstein, a collage of borrowed tools, second-hand parts, and unapologetic belief. But it ran. God, it ran. It wasn't luxury. It was rebellion on wheels. Turner cars weren't designed to impress. They were built to defy, not crafted for the elite, but for the underestimated. They were purpose-driven machines, created for anyone who ever felt unwelcome. And Jackson never let anyone forget that. One video made him a name, grainy footage. No filters, no lights. Just Jackson, standing in a garage, looking straight into the lens. A car doesn't judge you. It doesn't ask your name, your credit score, or what you look like. Cars don't discriminate. People do. That 30-second clip spread like wildfire. People didn't just share it. They lived it. Mechanics, teachers, veterans, single moms, they quoted it like scripture. For the first time, a car brand spoke to those who weren't used to being seen. But now, things felt different. Outside the showroom, Jackson stood still. The Valkyrie gleamed just inside, but the shine felt false. The air around the brand felt colder than it had ever been. Then came the letter. No return address, just a name, Leonard H. Green. The envelope was handwritten, the handwriting old school, firm, military clean. Mr. Turner, I'm a retired Air Force pilot. Last week I visited your Beverly Hills showroom. I wore my uniform. I asked to see the Valkyrie RS. They told me it was out of stock. I saw it parked right behind them. No one shook my hand. No one asked my name. I wasn't invisible until I walked into your store. Jackson read the letter 3 times. Then again. The room around him blurred, but not from tears. Just wait. This wasn't just a misstep. This was betrayal. A veteran ignored in the house Jackson built to honor people just like him. The thought pierced deeper than he expected. He sat still, the letter open like a wound in his hand. His gaze scanned the office, awards, press features, headlines calling him the People's Engineer. But suddenly they felt hollow, like trophies in a stranger's house. They're doing the opposite of what I built, he said, voice barely above a whisper. And they're using my words to do it. He leaned back, leather creaking beneath the weight of realization. The overlooked were leaving, not because the cars failed them, but because the people behind the counters did. And this time, Jackson couldn't look away. Jackson folded the letter with a reverence reserved for something sacred. His hands were steady, but his eyes had changed. Whatever softness once lingered there had vanished, replaced by the quiet, razor-sharp clarity of a man who decided something irrevocable. He walked to the window of his high-rise office, overlooking a city stitched together by ambition and asphalt. Below, the world pulsed, fast, demanding, indifferent. Jackson held the letter once more, then slid it carefully into a drawer as if preserving something fragile. A knock at the door. Daniel entered, clipboard in hand, mid-sentence before noticing the shift in the room. "I need a flight to LA, Jackson said, voice low, final. Daniel blinked. "Board meeting?" Jackson shook his head. "No meetings. No press. Don't put it on the calendar. Don't tell the team. Just book it." Daniel paused, processing. "You sure?" Jackson looked up, no hesitation in his eyes. "Beverly Hills showroom. I need to see it. Myself." The room stilled. Daniel scribbled a note and turned to leave, but Jackson's voice stopped him at the door. "If anyone asks, I'm off-grid. No numbers, no reports. I want the truth, raw." And just like that, the founder of Turner Motors disappeared. No entourage, no security detail. Just a man and a mission. Jackson stepped out of the rideshare car and into the bloodstream of a summer afternoon crowd. No designer suit. No watch that screamed power. Just a simple shirt, worn jeans, and a limp disguised by practiced ease. He blended in like he was never meant to stand out. Ahead stood the showroom, Turner Motors, the crown jewel. Steel, glass, and branding that whispered confidence with every reflection. He walked slowly across the stone lot. His cane clicked, barely audible. A doorman glanced at him. No recognition, no greeting. Inside, the temperature dropped. Air-conditioned air wrapped around luxury and silence. No one looked twice. He paused by the front desk. The young man there nodded politely, but turned immediately back to his screen. Jackson didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The silence confirmed everything. Without a name, without a suit, without the visible status, they saw nothing. He wasn't there to fight. He was there to see, and what he saw was the truth. He drifted through the showroom until he stood before the Valkyrie RS. The platform shimmered under museum-grade lighting. perfection behind velvet ropes. He rested his hand on the railing, not crossing the line, just feeling how close he could get before being told no. A voice cut through the calm. "Excuse me, sir." He turned. A woman in a sharp black blazer smiled. A customer service smile, not a human one. "This area's by appointment only." Jackson nodded, voice neutral. "Just wanted a look." Her eyes dropped to his cane, then his shoes. The smile didn't move. "We'd be happy to schedule a showing later this week." No fight, no argument. He simply stepped back. Again, the message wasn't loud, but it was clear. You don't belong, not like this. Outside, the sun glared off the showroom glass. Jackson stood at the curb, letting the moment sting. A silver SUV pulled up. A man in his 30s stepped out, talking fast, wearing wealth. He didn't even look at Jackson. "Hey, could you keep an eye on this?" The man tossed him the keys. Just like that. No question, no doubt. Jackson stared at the fob, the logo gleaming. The irony was venomous. He'd designed cars like this, for men like that. But the man didn't see a founder. He saw a valet. And in that quiet, Jackson didn't feel rage. He felt confirmation. This wasn't about him. It never was. This was the system, and it was working perfectly. For the wrong people. He turned back toward the building, the glass separating him from the car he had once poured himself into. On the other side, the Valkyrie RS gleamed, untouched, unreachable. He brushed his fingers against the glass. He knew every millimeter of that car, the way the hood caught light, the signature stitch on the seats. It was his fingerprint in metal. But now, he couldn't even touch it. His reflection looked back at him. A man without a badge, without a name, without permission. No anger in his gaze, just disappointment, deep, slow, and complete. Not because of rejection, but because of who did the rejecting. Inside, laughter echoed. A couple walked in, white, stylish, sunglasses still on. Instantly, staff emerged, smiles, posture shifts, names exchanged. "Mr. and Mrs. Langford, welcome back." Champagne arrived like clockwork. The woman took hers wordlessly. The man nodded, already eyeing the Valkyrie. "Would you like to sit inside today? We've reserved the key." Same space, same car, different welcome. No one looked at Jackson. He might as well have been the glass itself. A few minutes later, another man entered. Asian, mid-30s, clean cut. He approached the Valkyrie with admiration in his eyes. "Looking for something in particular?" a staffer asked. "Yes," he said. "The RS." A pause, a scan. "Shoes?" "Watch." A judgment masked in courtesy. "Actually, you might enjoy our Grand Touring line. Similar performance, more accessible price point." The man hesitated. "I'm interested in this model." A professional smile. "Let's start with something more practical." He followed. Quietly. Jackson watched. No fight, no drama, just polite redirection. Wrapped in silk, laced with exclusion. The message was clear. This wasn't just a showroom, it was a filter, one that decided who deserved what, and who didn't. Jackson found a chair near the lounge. He didn't fix his posture, didn't pretend to wait for anyone. He just sat. A small leather notebook rested on his lap. No title, just worn edges and blank pages. He opened it and began to write. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Because when you're not seen, you build something that can't be ignored. The notes came fast now. Jackson filled each page with tight lines, bullet points, names, timings, short gestures, long silences, who was welcomed and who was ignored. Each interaction a quiet transaction of perceived worth. He wasn't just recording behavior, he was mapping a pattern. Young man. Redirected before he reached the car. Couple. Champagne within seconds. Laughter escorted like royalty. Security. Alert, present, but uninterested unless prompted. Jackson's eyes never stopped moving. He tracked what most overlooked: the spaces between greetings, the glances that decided worth, the subtle choreography of who was allowed to matter. There was no anger in his face, just attention, sharp, focused, like a scientist in a lab where the experiment was long underway. Flip. A new page, a new heading, proof. He wasn't there for closure anymore. He was there for evidence. The front door opened with a soft sweep. A woman entered, mid-60s, black, dignified. A gentle gray coat wrapped around her like a whisper. Her heels were low, deliberate, shoes chosen for comfort, not vanity. She stood for a moment, adjusting her purse strap. Her gaze swept across the room until it landed on the Valkyrie RS. Her eyes softened. A moment of wonder, of hope. She stepped closer to the reception counter, hands folded. She waited, poised, expectant, but unassuming. No one moved. 2 sales reps passed by. One gave a glance, the other didn't even see her. She shifted, almost imperceptibly, like someone politely trying not to appear disappointed. A few minutes ticked by, silent and brutal. Her eyes dimmed slightly. Not in pain, in recognition. Then she turned and walked away. 3 heels clicked against the marble. That was it. She left exactly as she arrived, unacknowledged. Jackson didn't move, not an inch. He didn't need to. The moment said everything. Behind the desk, Maria Torres watched. Tablet in hand, screen lit but ignored, her gaze followed the older woman to the door. Maria wasn't new. She'd seen that look before. Not bitterness, not confusion, just resignation. And something in her chest tightened. She was still staring when Richard's voice came from behind her. "Langfords want the RS specs." Maria blinked, straightened. Of course. She turned away, tablet still in hand, but her posture didn't reset right away. Her steps faltered. Her glance lingered 1 heartbeat longer than it should have. The door closed behind the woman. Silence. Maria returned to her post, shoulders stiff, fingers drumming lightly. Jackson approached her, quiet, steady. No badge, no pretense, just presence. She looked up, polite smile, guarded eyes. "Can I help you?" Jackson studied her, not with scrutiny, but with understanding. His voice was low, gentle. "I think," he said, "you're asking yourself what the right thing is." Maria blinked, taken off guard. "And I think," he added, "you already know the answer. You're just waiting for someone else to say it first." Her gaze dropped. Not in shame, but in recognition. He slid a card across the counter. No logo, no title, just a number. "If that day comes," he said, "call me." He turned before she could answer. Maria stared at the card like it held a secret. Her fingers traced the edge, slowly, unsure. Just a name. J. Turner. By the time she looked up, he was nearly out the door. "Wait," she said, the word barely above a breath. He paused, didn't turn fully. "When you're ready to say what needs to be said," he said, "I'll be here to listen." Maria stood frozen. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not here, not ever. Another customer burst in behind her, laughing, full of noise and confidence. Maria straightened instinctively. Smile reloaded. But the card stayed in her pocket, heavy as truth. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like part of the showroom. She felt seen. And seen things don't stay quiet. Jackson stepped into the sunlight without urgency. No drama, no backward glance. Once he reached the edge of the lot, he took out his phone and called Daniel. "Everything all right?" Daniel asked. "I want to run a test," Jackson replied. Quiet, small. There was a pause. "What kind of test?" "3 visitors," Jackson said. "Different profiles, same showroom, same day." Daniel didn't ask why. He already knew. "You want it recorded?" "Every word," Jackson said. "No one knows it's us." Daniel exhaled. "When?" "Tomorrow. And Daniel—" Jackson hesitated for only a moment. Make sure none of them look like me. He hung up. The decision was made. Not out of anger, not for revenge, for truth. The next day, 3 strangers entered Turner Motors within the span of 1 hour. A white man, early 30s. Sharp suit, Rolex, assured stride. A black woman, mid-40s. Professional, composed. Blazer neat, a folder under her arm. An Asian man in his 20s. Clean, reserved, button-up crisp, briefcase firm in hand. They didn't come together, but they asked for the same thing, to see the Valkyrie RS. Daniel watched from a control feed. Jackson sat beside him, silent. 3 screens, 3 stories unfolding. Let it run, Jackson said. And it did. The white man was first. The reaction was instant. Staff smiled before he even spoke. Handshakes. A manager appeared within 60 seconds. You have excellent taste, Richard said. The rope unhooked. The door opened. The engine roared. Champagne, no questions, no hesitation, just access. Daniel paused the screen. The silence said more than commentary ever could. Then feed 2 rolled. The black woman stepped in, poised, respectful, equal presence. She paused at the Valkyrie. This time it took minutes before someone approached. Are you looking for financing options? I'd like to know more about this model, she said. Can I ask your credit score? She blinked. You haven't asked my name. The rep had no answer. She didn't shout, didn't fight. She just stepped back. It's fine, she said. I've seen enough. Jackson's eyes stayed on the screen, and Daniel's jaw tightened. The test had only begun, but the results were already undeniable. It wasn't just the voices, the glances, or the gatekeeping smiles. What Jackson had seen on the screen was a system, a quiet choreography of exclusion so embedded, so seamless, it passed as professionalism. Polished discrimination, delivered with a glass of champagne and a handshake. The footage cut to black. Jackson didn't speak. He didn't need to. His posture sagged forward, elbows on his knees, head bowed. Not in defeat, but in contemplation. One hand dropped down, slow and purposeful, fingers curling around the grip of his cane. He didn't lift it, just held it, tight, white-knuckled. It wasn't anger that filled him. It wasn't even shock. It was weight. The kind of burden that doesn't erupt. It sinks in, it stays. What he saw wasn't policy, it was culture. A learned script, a ritual, rehearsed so well, no one even noticed the lines anymore, and his name, his legacy, had become the mask behind which it thrived. He exhaled, slow and deep. It wasn't a sigh. It was a decision leaving his lungs. The screen blinked back to life. Richard, charming, confident, standing shoulder to shoulder with the white customer, smiling like a man in control of his kingdom. We don't open the RS for just anyone, he said, laugh soft, familiar. But you've clearly got the profile for it. The man chuckled. Well, I appreciate that. Then Richard leaned in, the voice dropping just enough. No paperwork, no fuss, private test drive. He handed over a fob like it was a key to a secret society. Jackson watched, not blinking. That wasn't a moment of generosity. It was a performance. A signal passed between men who believed they belonged. And Jackson had seen enough. He stood. The feed froze on Richard's grin, still mid-charm. Daniel looked up, tablet in hand, waiting for instructions. Jackson's voice came calm, measured. We've seen enough. He tore a page from his notebook, folded it once. This isn't a bias problem, he said. It's a culture problem, and it's ours. His voice held no fury, only clarity, and with it came something heavier, ownership. He walked to the window, staring out at a city that no longer knew its architect. Set the call, he said. Full board, everyone. Daniel hesitated. You sure? This won't stay quiet. Jackson turned, face unreadable. Good, it shouldn't. A pause. It's time someone remembered who built this company and why. He picked up his cane, not as a symbol of frailty, but of endurance. And this time, he didn't speak softly. By noon, the storm had broken. The headlines weren't subtle. Founder interferes in operations. Turner turmoil. Jackson Turner was no longer a reformer. According to the whispers spreading like wildfire through investor groups and company channels, he was a liability. An anonymous source, everyone knew whose mouth it came from, even if the name was absent, called him impulsive, accused him of gutting the leadership team under the guise of morality. Richard, always calm, always measured, addressed the board behind closed doors. "I respect Jackson's legacy," he said smoothly. "But legacy can't justify chaos." Some board members nodded, some looked unsure. Most didn't speak at all, because silence, like culture, is often strategic. Outside the room, Jackson's footage sat in an editing suite, unseen. Still raw, still real. But Richard had struck first, framed the story, twisted truth into disruption. And now Jackson wasn't a visionary. He was a problem. Media outlets called, allies texted cautiously. Even some of Jackson's old partners started to distance themselves. But it was the shareholders that cut deepest. "Should we delay Q3 launch? Are you stepping down? This isn't what we invested in." Doubt doesn't always shout. Sometimes it trickles, then floods. Daniel entered quietly, holding a tablet. A live poll from a major auto investor blog. "Do you still trust Jackson Turner to lead?" The comments scrolled beneath. "Visionary, yes, but maybe he's outgrown the company. Great founder, bad CEO, time to move on." One line stopped Jackson cold. A visionary can still outlive his vision. He stared at it. Not because it was cruel, but because it might be true. He had spent years building something that stood for inclusion, for access, for the overlooked. But now that vision was being stripped of its urgency, polished into something clean and silent. The email came quietly. Subject: Response to proposed showroom audit. After internal discussion, the board has decided not to proceed with restructuring efforts at this time. We appreciate your dedication. However, we believe stability is our priority. No meeting, no discussion, just a verdict. Jackson closed the laptop. His fingers stayed on the lid a moment longer than they needed to. This wasn't rejection. It was dismissal. They had seen the footage. They had seen the truth, and chose comfort anyway. He stood by the glass again, the city sprawling below him. People moved like they always had, quick, loud, distracted. No one paused, no one looked up. No one recognized the man who had built the roads they drove on. His reflection blurred against the glass. He barely recognized it either. Not because he was older, but because he had truly believed that if he built something for everyone would defend it. Instead, they defended the version that was easiest to swallow. Not radical, just refined. In the break room of the Beverly Hills showroom, Maria sat alone. Her shift had ended, but her body hadn't moved. The fluorescent lights hummed above her. Far away, someone laughed. She didn't notice. Her phone glowed in her hand. J. Turner. She hovered over the name. All day she had replayed the silence, the missed looks, the polite rejections, the quiet violence of indifference. And now she had a choice: to be part of the system, or stand beside the one who built it. Her thumb trembled. She tapped call. Each ring sounded louder than the last. Then, "Hello?" His voice. Tired, calm. "Jackson," she said. "It's Maria." A pause. "I'm ready." The words left her before she could second-guess them, and with them, the silence shattered. On the other end, Jackson said nothing. Not at first. Then, "I can't pretend anymore," Maria continued. "Every time I smile at someone who doesn't belong and let them walk out unnoticed, I feel like I'm helping bury the company I used to be proud of." Jackson still didn't interrupt. "I've seen too much," she whispered. "And what came next would change everything." "I've stayed quiet too long," Maria whispered, voice catching on years of suppressed truth. "But I'm done. I'm ready to talk. I don't care what it costs." Across the city, Jackson leaned forward in his chair, the quiet steadying his breath. "You're not alone," he said, calm and certain. Silence followed. Then Maria said it, soft, raw, unfiltered. "They think we're small because we stay quiet." Jackson nodded, though she couldn't see it. "Then let's make some noise." And in that moment, something shifted. Not just in the air between two people, but in the very current of the fight itself. She had stepped forward, and with her, the silence began to unravel. Jackson's inbox pinged. Subject line, "For your eyes only." From Maria Torres. He opened the email. No greeting, no commentary, just one line. "This is what you've been looking for." Attached, a single PDF. He clicked. What opened wasn't just a document. It was a confession dressed as protocol. Internal training slides, a section marked client filtering, situational engagement guidelines, coded phrases wrapped in politeness, corporate camouflage for discrimination, targeted engagement, brand alignment cues, profiling for efficiency. One line burned brighter than the rest. "If they don't look like our brand, don't bring them near our best." Jackson scrolled, his jaw clenched. One slide showed a flowchart. Observe dress, scan posture, assess tone. If mismatch, redirect to Tier B inventory. This wasn't bias. It was blueprinted, distributed, endorsed. Now he had what he needed. Not outrage, not assumption, proof. The press conference was packed. Cameras clicked, microphones buzzed, and the room held its breath. Jackson stood alone at the podium. No graphics, no logo wall, no marketing veneer. Just a man with truth in hand. "2 weeks ago," he began, voice steady, "I walked into one of our flagship showrooms." He paused, let the silence breathe. No name, no title, no suit, just a customer. He told them what happened. No embellishment, just memory. I was ignored, passed over, until someone asked me to watch their car. Gasps rippled across the room, soft, stunned. I was shown nothing, offered nothing, not even my own design. He lifted a printed document, Maria's email, the internal protocol file. "This is not an accident, this is policy." He let it hang. Quiet, elegant, cruel. The room froze. Journalists didn't scribble. They stared. The footage went viral within hours. Founder shunned by his own brand. Turner Motors faces systemic discrimination scandal. Behind closed doors, the corporate surface cracked. Richard slammed his office door shut, fury in his veins. His assistant waited nervously. "The board's asking." "Tell them I'll call when I'm ready," he barked. He paced, manic. "I'm not letting him bury me." He didn't want to win. He wanted to destroy. "Get legal on the line," he growled. "I want everything we have on Turner. I want him discredited before sunset." He wasn't protecting the brand anymore. He was protecting his own ego. But it was too late. The boardroom was quiet when Jackson walked in. 12 faces turned toward him. Some tense, some ashamed, others unreadable. He said nothing at first. He placed a tablet on the table and tapped play. The footage began. First, the white customer. Champagne, red carpet, keys in hand. Second, the black woman. Credit check, redirection, dismissal. Third, the document, the flowchart. The policy no one wanted spoken aloud. Jackson looked up. "This isn't my opinion. This is company practice." The silence spoke louder than any rebuttal. He reached into his notebook, pulled out a folded letter. "This arrived 2 years ago. It was never answered." He read aloud. "Dear Mr. Turner, I saved for 3 years to buy my dream car, a Turner. I walked into your Beverly Hills showroom, proud, nervous. No one spoke to me. I stood for 20 minutes. When I asked about the RS, I was told it wasn't the right match. I left humiliated. I haven't bought another car, but I'm writing because I believe your brand deserves better than what's happening in its name." He folded the letter. "Today," he said, "we answer it." The chair cleared her throat. "We'll proceed to vote." The motion, immediate dismissal of Regional Director Richard Langston on grounds of ethical violation and misconduct. One by one. Yes, yes, abstain, yes, no, yes, yes, yes. The count grew. Jackson didn't blink. The 12th vote landed. Yes? 11-1. It was done. Richard sat at the end of the table, stunned. No words left to twist. Effective immediately, the chair confirmed. Richard stood. No apology, no exit speech, just silence and footsteps. Justice didn't scream. It simply walked out the door. 1 week later, the Beverly Hills showroom felt different. Not shinier, just realer. Gone were the champagne trays. In their place, eye contact, open smiles, seats offered, questions asked. At the center of it all stood Maria, clipboard in hand, calm, focused. The plaque on her new office door read, Diversity and Access Compliance Director, Maria Torres. She greeted each guest herself, a teenage girl in sneakers, a black couple holding hands, an older man with worn boots and hopeful eyes. Each was offered a name, a seat, a tour. The Valkyrie RS sat behind glass. Doors unlocked. Maria looked at it and smiled. She remembered what it felt like to be invisible. Now she made sure no one else had to. High above, Jackson stood on the mezzanine. Not as a CEO, not as a brand, but as a witness. He wasn't the center of attention anymore. He didn't want to be. The city pulsed outside. Roads filled with people chasing dreams on 4 wheels and 2 feet. He stepped out to the rooftop garden. The breeze tugged gently at his coat. He looked not at the skyline, but past it. No one, he whispered, should ever be dismissed for how they walk through the door, if they carry a dream inside. He let the words hang in the air, then turned. No applause, no speech, just quiet. A man who built something and finally rebuilt it from the inside out. What would you do if the system ignored your worth? Let us know below. Your story matters. Your voice matters, even when the world tells you it doesn't. Subscribe for more stories that move the world forward.